Welcome back to Under the Sink Light, episode 14. This week is banana walnut bread. So we're going to start off by preheating our oven to 375, and then we're going to be using 5 medium-ish bananas. If you need an exact measurement, I did weigh them, and it came out to about 490 grams. So I would say within 10 or 15 grams one way or the other would put you in the right spot. Some of these were more ripe and were hanging out in my fridge, that's why they're uglier, but the darker the better, they're going to be sweeter, and personally I think you can't make banana bread with just regular ripe bananas, they have to be overripe. With all the bananas in the bowl, we're going to add half a cup of packed brown sugar. You can use light, golden, dark, whichever you choose, just pack the half cup because the measurement will be different. I like to mash the bananas with a fork with the sugar because the granules kind of help break it up a little quicker, and then it kind of, speeds up the process of making it a liquid, as you can see here. That's just the bananas and sugar so far. And then we're going to go in with half a teaspoon of salt, and I just kind of do a pinch, I kind of eyeball it. If you want to measure it, by all means go ahead. Just because I'm using kosher salt, I just kind of go with like a hearty pinch, and then I mix that in. And then I'm going to get my other liquid ingredients ready. So it's going to be a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, canola oil, you could even use coconut if you want, and then a 1/4 cup of your milk of choice. You could also sub out just plain water if you like instead. And then we're going to do 2 large eggs. And in order to make this recipe vegan, all you would really need to do is replace the eggs. There's a couple ways to do that. I always used to use a flax egg, but if you have a preference, then go with that. And then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And you might say that this all kind of looks backwards. Aren't you supposed to do dry and then wet? The technical answer is yes, but for banana bread, I think it's a little easier to get everything incorporated if I kind of start backwards. And then we're going to use vanilla extract. This will be 2 teaspoons, but really it's going to be a little bit over. And that you can go up to a tablespoon and really not affect the flavor that much. So just mixing in that baking soda, making sure there's not any lumps, because lumps of leavening both don't taste good and defeat the purpose of it being there. So all the other liquid goes into the bowl, and then you could have switched to a whisk much earlier than this, or you don't have to switch to a whisk at all, but I'm still using that fork. And then we're going to do a tablespoon of cinnamon. If you like cinnamon, this is probably the right amount. If you don't like it, you can do less. If you love cinnamon, you can definitely do more. But this is kind of the sweet spot. And then just whisk it all up. And then we're just doing regular all-purpose flour. It's going to be 2 1/4 cup. And they're not perfectly level, but I just kind of shook it until it was mostly level. You can definitely take the back of a knife and totally level out the scoop, tapping to make sure there's no air pockets. But it's not that serious for this recipe. And then you're just going to mix until it's all combined. You want to be careful not to overmix because of developing that gluten in the flour. We don't want a chewy result. Just until it all comes together like this. Make sure that you've scraped the bottom a little bit so there's no hidden pockets. And then we're going to chop up our walnuts. We're going to need half a cup of chopped walnuts. So measure them after you chop them. It's not walnuts, chopped, it's chopped walnuts. And it just has to be kind of a rough chop. Like if you have these shelled ones that are in halves, you can definitely buy them already chopped. But if you're doing the handiwork, just kind of a rough chop. So there's our half a cup, and then I did a little bit of extra just for the top of the loaf. That half a cup is going to go right in, and we're just going to fold it in so we're not over mixing our batter. And then we're going to prep our pan. So it's just a standard loaf pan. I used canola oil pan spray on all the sides and the bottom. And then we're also going to line it with parchment, which may seem a little redundant, but it definitely provides a nice way to lift your bread out of the pan without having to flip it over and lose all your walnuts on top. So we just do it with a little overhang so I can fold it. And then that's how I'm going to pick the bread up out of the pan, which you'll see in a little bit. And then just all the batter is going to go straight into the pan. And then we have the nuts that we left for on top. We're just gonna sprinkle them right on top. And then you can press them in a little bit if you notice that they're not like nestling in, but you don't want to push them too far, otherwise they might end up sinking. And now it's ready for the oven at 375. I ended up baking it for exactly 65 minutes, so an hour and 5. This is how it looks. I let it cool for 10 minutes in the pan, and then this is me taking it out of the pan with my handy dandy little parchment handles. After just 10 minutes in the pan, it is still quite hot. We just want it to cool more. I ended up letting it cool for an hour before I cut into it, and honestly it was still warm. You should wait until it's totally cool, disclaimer. But I couldn't wait, and it's delicious with butter when it's warm, so, But here's the inside. It's not dense in the middle. There's a little bit of density at the bottom, but I wouldn't say that's strange for this type of recipe. There's a lot of moisture, so it just seems like maybe the bigger chunks of banana kind of settled. Here's the recipe if you want to keep it, and then the final picture. And I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for watching.